Good evening, everyone. Let me begin by telling you something simple but powerful. Trust me, you are not late. I know some of you feel like you're behind. Behind in career, behind in love, behind in life. You scroll through your phone, see people making money at 25, launching companies at 19, getting married at 28, and you think, I'm late. But that's not true. That's a trap. Let me tell you something that might shift the way you see your life. Your clock is not broken. It's just different. You see, we've been conditioned to believe that everything in life must happen according to a certain schedule. Graduate by 22, get a good job by 25, buy a house by 30, start a family, get promoted, retire at 60, tick, tick, tick. It's like this invisible stopwatch everyone's carrying around. And if you fall behind, you start to feel like you're failing. But life doesn't work that way. You are not a product on an assembly line. You are not supposed to be exactly like everyone else. Some people figure out what they want to do at 18. Others find it at 48. Some people make their first million in their 20s. Others do it after failing 4 businesses and trying again at 50. There are people who seem like they're ahead and then they burn out or change paths entirely. And there are people who seem slow to start, but when they do, they move with such clarity and force that they leap ahead, not because they rushed, but because they were ready. The problem isn't that you're late. The problem is that you're comparing your timing to someone else's story. You have your own pace, your own rhythm, your own route. Just because the world is noisy doesn't mean you need to shout to keep up. Sometimes the quiet, steady path leads to the most extraordinary places. So don't waste your energy worrying about where everyone else is. Focus on what you're doing, grow at your own speed, show up for your own life, and understand that arriving late doesn't matter, arriving prepared does. You're not off track, you're not broken, you're just on a different schedule. And that's not a weakness, that's your power. Pressure is something every one of us will face in school, in work, in relationships, in life. It's a sign that you're doing something that matters. If you feel pressure, it means you're growing. It means you care. It means you're stepping outside of comfort and into possibility. Think about it. When you lift weights, your muscles feel pressure. That tension is what makes them stronger. The same goes for your mind, your spirit, your ambition. Pressure, when handled right, becomes your training ground. It shapes you, sharpens you, teaches you resilience. But there's a difference between pressure and panic. Pressure is natural. It's part of the process. Panic is what happens when you start believing that everything must be perfect right now and that if it's not, you're doomed. Panic turns a challenge into a crisis. It clouds your thinking, makes you rush decisions, and convinces you that failure is final. But it's not. Failure is feedback. And pressure is a signal, not a sentence. When you panic, you lose the ability to think clearly. But when you breathe through pressure, when you slow down just enough to stay focused, you start to realize that most of the urgency is not real. It's emotional. It's noise. And if you can stay calm inside that noise, you'll find your power. The truth is, pressure never really goes away. The stakes just change. If you want to do something meaningful, you will face pressure again and again. But panic is not mandatory. You can feel the weight without letting it crush you. You can stand tall even when everything inside says run. The key is not to eliminate pressure. The key is to learn how to stand in it without losing your balance. In today's world, there's a rush to earn, to land the high-paying job, to start the profitable business, to be successful as early as possible. It's easy to feel like if you're not making big money by a certain age, you're somehow falling behind. But here's a truth people often overlook. Learning always comes before earning. not just chronologically, but in value, in weight, in impact. Your 20s, and often even your 30s, are not just about making money. They're about building a foundation. The skills you sharpen, the habits you form, the people you learn to work with, the failures you go through, all of this becomes the fuel for your later success. And the deeper your roots, the taller you'll grow when it's time to rise. If you chase money too early without the knowledge or the experience to support it, you'll either burn out or break down. But if you chase growth, if you focus on understanding how things work, how people think, how to solve problems, how to lead, how to build, the money will come. Not as a reward for rushing, but as a result of readiness. This is especially true in the age of constant comparison. You see someone on social media driving a luxury car or buying a house at 27, and you think, I need that now. But you don't see the years they spend behind the scenes, or the debt, or the stress, or the shortcuts that might have taken a toll. Don't let someone's highlight reel make you abandon your process. The real currency is skill. The real value is wisdom. If you focus on learning, truly learning, not just checking boxes, you will become someone the world pays attention to, someone the world pays well. Because while quick money might look good now, long-term value is what sustains a life, a business, a dream. So take the internship, work under someone better than you, ask the dumb questions, read the books, make the mistakes, stay curious, invest in your mind the way others chase investment returns. Because in the end, the people who learn early, even if they earn later, always go further. Rejection is one of the most uncomfortable experiences we go through, yet it's also one of the most powerful forms of education life has to offer. It doesn't feel like that in the moment, of course. It feels personal. It feels like judgment. It feels like a closed door that somehow proves you're not good enough, not ready, not wanted. But that's just the emotional response talking, not the truth. Rejection, when viewed with the right mindset, is a mirror. It reflects back where you are, where you need to grow, and where you need to adjust. It doesn't mean you're unworthy. It just means there's a gap between where you are and where you want to be, and now you have a chance to close it. Every rejection is feedback. Sometimes the feedback is clear, you need more experience. Other times it's subtle. You're great, but not the right fit here. Either way, it teaches you something about your skills, your communication, your timing, or even your direction. The most successful people didn't avoid rejection. They studied it. They got told no so many times they could write a book about it. And some of them actually did. But instead of stopping, they listened. They adapted. They learned. Rejection also builds emotional strength. Every time you hear no and choose not to collapse, you become more resilient. You stop fearing failure so much. You realize the world doesn't end when someone turns you down. In fact, rejection often redirects you to something better. A better opportunity, a better path, a better version of yourself. Sometimes rejection protects you from things you thought you wanted but didn't need. Sometimes it forces you to sharpen your tools, and sometimes it simply means you need to knock on more doors. But in every case, it has something to teach you if you're willing to listen. So don't let rejection discourage you. Let it develop you. Let it be your teacher, not your enemy. Because those no's, they're not the end. They're just part of your training. And the more you learn from them, the better prepared you'll be when the right yes finally comes. The people you surround yourself with shape more than just your social life. They shape your mindset, your confidence, your energy, and ultimately your results. That's why it's so important to choose your circle wisely. Surround yourself with doers, not doubters. Doers are the people who take action even when things are uncertain. They don't just talk about goals, they work toward them. They don't waste time complaining, they look for solutions. Being around doers pulls you forward. Their mindset is contagious. When you see someone else taking risks, building something from nothing, or pushing through challenges, it makes you want to rise to that level too. On the other hand, doubters drain your energy. They're the ones who say, that's too hard, or why bother, or no one's ever done that before. Not because they know something you don't, but because they're projecting their own fears onto you. And if you hear that kind of talk long enough, you start to believe it. You start shrinking your dreams to make others comfortable. You begin hesitating instead of acting, second guessing instead of learning. It doesn't mean doubters are bad people. Often they mean well. Sometimes they're even people who care about you. But if they've settled into a mindset of limitation, of excuses, of fear, and you're trying to grow, then you're not moving in the same direction. And over time, that gap will either pull you down or push you to leave. You need people around you who are building something, not tearing everything down. People who say, let's try instead of that'll never work. People who encourage your progress, challenge your thinking, and celebrate your wins, no matter how small. These are the people who fuel momentum. They make you feel like more is possible, not less. So take a hard look at your circle. Are they pushing you forward or holding you back? Are they doing or just doubting? Because the people around you don't just influence your journey, they shape the limits of your belief. And when you surround yourself with doers, you start to believe that doing is the default, not dreaming, not delaying, but acting. That shift in mindset can change everything. Success often looks like luck from the outside. People see the finished product, the business that takes off, the athlete winning the championship, the artist going viral, and they assume it happened overnight, that someone just got lucky. But if you look closer, if you peel back the layers, you'll always find the same thing beneath the surface. Consistent, often invisible, daily effort. Real success isn't built on one big moment. It's built on thousands of small ones. The mornings when no one's watching, but you still show up. The nights you stay up late, refining your work, practicing your craft, learning from your mistakes. It's built in the routine, the discipline to do what needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it, even when it's boring, even when there's no applause. The problem is, most people want the outcome, but not the process. They want the results, but not the repetition. But the truth is, you don't rise to the level of your goals. You fall to the level of your habits. And if your habits are weak, your success will be fragile, even if you get lucky. Daily effort compounds. 1 page a day becomes a book. 1 workout a day becomes strength. 1 sale a day becomes a business. 1 step a day becomes a journey. It may not feel like much in the moment, but over time, it separates those who merely dream from those who actually do. And yes, luck can open a door, but only effort keeps you inside. Luck may give you a head start, but it's daily work that carries you across the finish line. You can control when a big opportunity comes, but you can control whether or not you're prepared when it does. So forget shortcuts. Forget hoping to get noticed or waiting for the perfect time. Success doesn't come from one lucky break. It comes from what you do today and tomorrow and the day after that. Show up, put in the work, repeat. That's not glamorous, but that's the formula. The people who seem lucky are usually the ones who never stop doing the little things that most people gave up on. They didn't just